Which this is.
This is a chance for the city clerk auditors You're muted.
Do we have four?
I call this meeting of the planning board, city of Palatka. Board. We'll start with invitation and, Mr. Fletcher, you guys will do give the invitation and Mr. Ross will do the pledge of allegiance.
Chapel Mulberry is on the line, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pastor, I didn't know you were there. Would you want to do the invitation, please, sir?
Absolutely.
Please stand.
Father, we thank you once again for this day. We thank you for how good you've been. You brought us together again for another planning session. We pray, God, for the wisdom of your guidance to be upon the heads of your people. Pray, God, that you will show us what to do and how to do and all that we undergird to do for the city. We pray, God, for your will to be done, and your kingdom come, your glory be revealed. Bless these thy people in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks, Pastor.
Bless you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Craig, will you have the roll call for it?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Deloach.
Here.
Miss Owens. Here. Miss Wilson. Here. Miss Rawl. Here. Vice Chair Barnes is en route for the record, and Chair Killebrew.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. We'll do the appeal procedures, next parte communications. Any person wishing to appeal any decision made by the planning board with respect to any matter considered at such meeting will make a record of the proceedings, and for such purposes may need to ensure that verbatim record of the proceedings is made, which record includes the testimony, evidence upon which the appeal is to be based, Florida statute 286-0105. Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes from last week.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. For public comments, we're going to open the floor for public comments. Anybody here that wishes to speak to what we got going on today or anything above and beyond that? Seeing none, we'll move on past that to our regular public business. Ms. Walsh, you want to speak to LTD case 23-04?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, planning board. This is a request to amend future land use map for 177.66 acres from the city of Palatka industrial, residential low RL, and commercial common to city of Palatka recreational, and rezone from city of Palatka light industrial M1, multiple family residential R3, and central commercial C3 to city of Palatka planned unit development / recreation open space or PUD ROS. The owner is the Crystal Cove Resort. It's something you guys have seen before, I believe. The intent is to construct an RV resort. In conjunction with an existing zoned and land use property that's 10 acres to the north of this proposed site. The applicant is here. I believe that you will gain a lot more from their presentation. They're ready to do so.
If the applicant will step forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Potts, Director of Engineering for Duty Pro. Address is 3530 Northwest 23rd Street in Gainesville, Florida. Stepping in for Kathy Eval today. Believe we said you guys have our presentation.
So he's bringing it up right now.
So as we've introduced, we're here for the Crystal Cove RV Park, a comprehensive, large-scale comp plan amendment as well as a rezoning application.
Mr. Chairman, on average, Buddy, would you like to move
Yes,
us first?
Yes. And these two off and do.
Yeah.
So the applicant is M3 Development and J Pro is agent. Fortunately, Kathy had a emergency come up today, so I am standing in her place. So just an overview of the presentation, we'll go over a little bit of the project background, the development plan, some proposed features within the RV resort, concurrency for city standards, as well as planning consistency. One item that is not required by code, but we felt was very important was we had a neighborhood workshop before we made the application. And we'll go over the results of it as well as questions that came up during that. And then at the end of the presentation, if there's any questions from the board, be more than happy to answer them. So from the existing land use, property is residential low as well as commercial and industrial. So it currently has 3 existing land uses on it, which we're requesting to change to recreational to support the proposed development, which is consistent with the surrounding properties. As Letha mentioned, there's an existing recreational to the north, which is currently an RV resort as well. For the zoning change, we're going to go from R3, C3, and M1, the request to recreational and open space with a PUD overlay. The overlay district will set the standards for the development moving forward. And then the recreational open space will handle the uses that are proposed on the property. So for the PUD, proposing 40 sites in addition to 30 rustic camping sites, and then a component of non-residential amenity features. The buildable area for the site, as you can see, there's quite a bit of wetlands on it. It's just under 50% or 50 acres, which is a little under 29% of the property. And then we're proposing a maximum of 50,000 square feet. That's not going to be one structure. That'll be various structures throughout the RV resort, which would be a welcome center, a clubhouse, laundry and bath facilities, potentially a convenience store, which will be part of either the clubhouse or the welcome center, and then the recreational facilities, which pools and other recreational activities like pickleball, sports, and hardscape stuff. We're proposing 3 different sizes of RV spaces, all minimum 35-foot wide, varying lengths depending on the type of RV. So we have Super Bowl crews, which are the much larger RVs, general pull-through sites as well as back end. The rustic sites will have no direct transport. So in other words, the southern area that you see that's in the orange hatch will have a small, the proposal is to have a small parking area. The rustic campers will come and park their vehicle there and then hike back into where they would like to camp. We'll have some various sites designated to that. The idea is that it's more of a natural feeling camping area. And then we're proposing to set aside 121.5 acres roughly, which will go into a preserve, which will be in perpetuity. Working with that with St. John's as well as the city to set that aside. And then for recreational activities, it'll be both active and passive. Passive are trails, hiking, that sort of thing, and then active will be some sort of court or something more traditional. The development will be connected to public utilities, both water and wastewater. So every RV site will have public hookups. We'll get into it a little more, but one of the questions that came up in the neighborhood workshop was regarding the existing lift station and the capacity of those lines. And discussing that with the utility department, the lift station right itself is actually underserved. So by adding the development, it'll actually improve the capacity of the lift station, the function of the pumps, and the overall system for the city. So the development will actually have a positive impact on the utilities for there, at least on the wastewater side. For lighting, we're going to make sure that with RV parks, we'll have very minimal lighting at night, get a nice feel of the night sky. So there'll be lighting around most of the structures, but then throughout the campsite, there'll be minimal lighting, just to preserve the natural feel of the campsite itself and allow people to feel like they're out there camping and not in a parking lot with lights everywhere. So these are some of the features and general architectural styles that are being thought about for the RV park. There's just RV sites, the amenity centers with the pavilions, active recreation down in the bottom right, boardwalks. So we're hoping to connect some boardwalks through the conservation area to add to the nature feel, the passive recreation, also to give access to St. John's River and connect to the marina, with the hopes of tying in all the existing uses that are out there. So the project features, as I mentioned, we have over 121 acres, which is roughly 71% of the property is going to be preserved, which I know is a big component of the city's comprehensive plan. And then, the campground is going to be utilizing a lot of the natural features. And the pictures to the right are taken from the site itself. So we have some aerial views as well as some ground shots of the existing topography and vegetative features. So from a concurrency standpoint, the city has ample capacity from a roadway, from a utility standpoint. The stormwater and the recreational meet land development requirements. And because it's an RV resort and there's not permanent residents, there are no impacts to public school facilities. RV resorts have very low impact roadways. So based on the peak PM trips, you're looking at roughly 11 trips per day from a peak standpoint, which is very minimal. Compared to a residential subdivision, you're looking at probably 3 times that for just a residential subdivision. And then the concurrency components of the impacts of this development on the city's water and wastewater system. So going to the planning consistency, a big policy and goal of the city's comprehensive plan is to use the existing topography and features of the property to preserve the environmental sensitivities of the city, as well as maintaining the environmental support for the St. John's River. And one thing that recreation does is by changing the land use to recreation, it'll achieve those goals for the city. Recreation has low impacts on environmental sensitive areas. This policy here is based off activity-based facilities. An RV resort meets that. Just being an RV resort itself, as well as providing amenities for that area. And then the PUD overlay sets standards for the development, as far as the maximum density, the sizes of the RV spaces and the uses. So again, the PUD requirements are to protect the city's environmentally sensitive areas. So with the requested change, the recreation and open space zoning allows for campground, and that's what this RV resort falls under. And then the plan unit development identifies specific standards which comply with the city's LDRs. So the proposed land use change complies with all these policies, objectives, and goals for the comp plan, mostly focusing on protecting the environment, provisions for public services and facilities, as well as provide economic development. So this brings in a lot of visitors who will support the local economy by commerce. And so again, the biggest focus for this change is it really achieves the conservation goal and protection of sensitive elements. You know, we're setting aside 71% of the property for resource protection as far as the wetland goes, and preserving, the St. John's River and stormwater components as well as other pollutants. So we had a neighborhood workshop in the beginning of February. It was well attended, and these are just some of the general ideas. We went over the project, went over the RV types, the operations, utilities, the market, reservations, dealing with their native and invasive species of plant materials that are on the property. And as we go through, if this gets approved, then we move forward into the site plan and development of it. One requirement that St. John's will have is to eliminate a lot of invasive species for plants and other items. So that'll be part of the condition of that as we move forward.
Excuse me,
Yes,
when you say St. John's, you're talking about St. John's Water Management.
that is correct, yes. And then one item that came up quite a bit was impact to roadways and the utility capacity. Part of our application is we provided a traffic study for the RV resort, and RV resort will have minimal impacts to the roadways, specifically off-site, and no roadway improvements are required based on those impacts. And then from the utility standpoint, there was concern about that lift station that's on site, capacity, and those sort of things, and it will actually improve those conditions because the lift station is currently underutilized. So we're here to request that the board approve the large-scale comprehensive amendment to change from residential low, commercial, and industrial to recreation, and change the rezoning from R3, C3, and M1 to recreational open space with PUD overlay. So with that, if the board has any questions, I'd be more than happy to ask.
Thank you. Anybody on the board that have any questions?
We've got an RV, and I just wanted to know what kind of rental system are you gonna have? Are you gonna have like month to month, or are you gonna allow month to month on a?
So there will be different stages. There's as far as you're referring to month,
Long-term?
they'll be allowed to have a long-term stay, but they won't be a permanent resident. So the goal is a lot of the snowbirds come down for 6 to 8 months. And so that's kind of the typical range for certain residents.
Are they gonna leave their camper and go away for 6 months? Because typically, I go and I'll look through RV parks before we go and rent them. And I don't like the long-term rental because we're short term. We go in for weeks at a time, a couple weeks here, a weekend here, and just the overnighters, the long-term ones that get to stay and leave, and then they end up putting the little shades down over their wheels. They get kind of shady looking, you know, and it just brings in back like baggage that I don't know where.
Yeah, so the intention of it is that you'll have a variety of residents. You know, you'll have night and day, you know, day-to-day resident,
Yeah.
as well as a little bit of the extended stay. However, if they leave the campground, you know, it's not a permanent residence, so they have to take their RV. So the RVs won't be able to stay. and take-
It'll be fun. It'll be, I mean, it's big enough to be fun.
If you, or if you'll step, if you want to speak to the podium, speak name and address, please.
Matt McDaniel with Crystal Cove, 221 Crystal Cove Drive. So our goal is to have the place look nice. It'll be a very expensive development, and it's all about keeping the level up. To build something new like we're building, you know, in this marketplace. So we'll have all kinds of restrictions on what people can keep outside of their RVs, because it just hurts our whole development, particularly for those people who are coming in for a week or two. You know, we don't want those people to feel like they're, you know, pulling into, you know, where somebody else lives. But our primary target customer is going to be the snowbird, and they generally bring their RV down, you know, 4, 6 months, 8 months, and then they leave and take their RV with them. So that's really our target.
Kind of going off of what Dawn had said, we camped when my son was young, and we would go and scout out campgrounds. And the ones that we didn't like were the ones that had the seasonal workers. And I mean, with Georgia Pacific and all that, people do come in and stay. Now, it's not my concern today, because I don't have a little kid, you know, I mean, people aren't set up there to work a shutdown. But I mean, they're going to be able to do that. I mean, stay for, whether it's a 3-month shutdown, 6 months. I mean,
So yeah, if the intention though is that they won't be able to receive mail or any of that sort of component. So you may have some of the seasonal or the construction workers that come by for 6 to 8 months. You know, that really is not the goal of the RV resort.
Okay.
But there may be a few of those just because of proximity.
right, it is.
But one component of that is that they can't get any mail or anything like that, so they'll have it's not for a permanent residence.
I mean, with 400 slots, I mean, we can't, Salt Springs has 400 plus in a little elite campground, that's what it was. And it really wasn't that bad, you'd think 400. It got crowded, but I'm talking after 9/11. It stayed, because everybody was camping, you know, so, I mean, it doesn't take much to fill one up.
So, yes, so one thing to keep in mind is that 400 is the maximum density goal. So when we come through with the site plan, we may not actually hit that level because of stormwater and roadways and that's right. And so, yes, it can get congested. However, the goal from developers is to not pack them in. And so each space will be fairly spaced, rooming for your camping equipment, picnic table, that sort of thing. So the goal is not to cram them all in, make it feel like a mobile home park. And with the amenities, it'll, you know, and the natural features of the site is to kind of spread them all out.
Mr. Wallace?
He covered mine.
Okay.
I have a question. Do you have any, are you gonna have any, like, water sports, like boat ramps, boat docks, anything like that, or?
So we are going through a process with DEP to have a boat dock, part of this property that's going to be attached to the marina, and then have boardwalks coming through. So the intention is to have, you know, access. So you can see it up in the top right corner.
Okay,
And that's just a small section.
yeah,
But the idea is that it would be connected to the marina.
so a camper can drive a boat.
Correct.
Then, cool.
Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, I guess I should find a microphone. You mind sharing for a second?
Go ahead.
Don Holmes, for your record. So I just have a couple of questions for clarification. 400 sites and 50 rustic sites. But did I see you were using for concurrency comparison purposes 11 trips per day?
Yes.
450 sites and only 11 travel trips a day?
That's correct.
Where do those numbers come from?
11 per site
No, in totality.
in totality?
I have a question about that. My question is the source of that information at 450 sites, then basically you're saying that only, roughly, what, 15-20% of them are gonna have a travel going in and out? No less than that, I'm sorry, wait. 5%.
About
10 would be, 10 on 400 would be 40 trips a day. So you're talking about way less than 10% of those sites would be having any travel at all. Even one. So I would like to know the source of that number. And then I'd also like to know, Lisa, what the capacity level of the road is. And at what number of trips per day would that road, that's a one-way in-out road, I guess, unless you would go down to the industrial area, is that right? Can you get out on the,
Yes.
Helper Road.
And then the second question is over the years, we've certainly heard a lot of good intentions. A lot of folks come up and tell us what their hope to see achieved. But we found that the only thing that we can count on is what's in the PUD regulation. So when you say your target audience is the folks coming out of snowbirds who typically stay 6 months or whatever, my question is there a maximum length of stay and incorporating the rules of the PUD?
So to answer the traffic question, so we submitted a traffic study that was performed by a traffic engineer. The basis of that is the ITE manual, which is the International Transportation of Engineering Manual, which identifies the type of development. And they've done a big study for over 20 or 30 years of how each use impacts the roads and what those type of roadway impacts are based off of average daily trips, peak PM trips, and peak AM trips. So those 11 trips per day are the peak trips, and that's what counties and cities and DOT look at for the impact, not the average daily trips. An RV resort is by nature a place where people come and they stay, and then they hardly, they're there for all the activities, and then their single car that they have is used periodically to go wherever they need to go. So compared to like a residential subdivision, which is a higher peak, that's why the trips are so low, because the type of use actually has a low impact based off years and years of data from the engineering side, studying roadways and that sort of thing. And the full engineering study, traffic study was submitted in the package. And based on that, there and discussions with DOT based off, the project impacts, DOT themselves determined that no roadway improvements are required. And as well, from our analysis, Comfort Road has sufficient capacity and design to handle the RV parks. But again, when we go through the site planning process, we'll go through that in depth, the city, as well as DOT. And if there are, at some point, determined that roadway improvements are required, they'll be all fleshed out during the site plan review process. So this request we're going through right now is just to set up the entitlements for the proposed development itself. The site plan will get into the finer details of if any improvements are required and what type of improvements are required. But right now, based on the traffic study, no improvement required.
So the drive or the entrance to this park, when we're looking at that, at this plan there, is just before the curve, right about where the, bump lift station and all that is? Is that the idea? It's gonna be right there?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
So it'll, that roadway intersection will be improved based on the driveway and that sort of thing.
okay, so will this at all be attached to the RV park that we've already approved on the other side of the road down there?
So it is the same developer. I don't know if you guys have determined if they could use the amenities in between each other. But right now, they're they're actually being viewed as, two separate RV resorts.
They would be able to share.
To the voting system. And state your name and address.
Matt McDaniel, 221 Crystal Cove. So when we got in, Chris can speak to this, when we got involved with Kelly in the project, the civil engineering, there's been some questions about why that not developed first. When JD Pro got involved, they looked at the plans and said, we have to really start from, square one. And so they're in the process of redoing all of those plans, and it is definitely our goal to do the 40 sites first. And the answer is yes, those sites would have access to all of the amenities of the larger project, and then both will have access to all of the amenities of Crystal Cove, the restaurant and the bar and the marina and so forth.
Okay, because part of, if I remember correctly, when we approved the other part of the resort, that was with an entrance off of Crystal Cove, or off Comfort Road, excuse me, to come in there to not tie up the road going back to the, and, well, not the industrial, but the, houses. Am I correct? And didn't we?
Yeah, we were having to come off.
Well, I thought they were having to come off of Comfort Road, to come back into that area so that they didn't tie up the residents, went back to residential section. So tying those together, and I'm not opposed to what you're presenting, I'm just, my mind's thinking.
So I guess to just back up one step too. So the original 40 units to the north, those revised engineering plans and architectural plans have been submitted. And so they're currently under review by the city and the county. And it does have an entrance like you're talking about, that the board approved. Now for the southern property, right now, that's just a placement where we were envisioning the connection. But again, those finer details will be worked out in the site plan process. So the entrance could be moved, could shift either way, depending on how it all comes together.
And I'm just like Mr. Holmes, I've seen people come in here and promise us the moon and deliver us a doghouse. And, so that's what just asking these questions while I'm asking.
No, it's understandable. So there's kind of two components of it. One is the engineering standards that have to be met by code, by the land development regulations. And those are controlled, for example, your access, your connection, roadway improvements based on that information. Now the architectural features, we actually provided in the PUD standards, architectural standards, designs for the park. So it is embedded in the PUD standards that we have submitted.
So it is input into the best.
Yes, that's correct.
That's what I was wondering. Ms. Thomas?
Well, he had.
Yes, sir.
Question, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead. Hang on, Ms. Thomas, I'm sorry.
I asked the question, maximum length of stay provided in the development plan. And I guess as an adjunct to that, are any of these units going to be park models that you own and that are set up on site?
You want to answer that? You guys want to stay?
Yeah.
Just state your name.
Matt McDaniel. Yeah, most of the new first class RV resorts offer park models as, part of the offering, because a lot of their clientele have RVs and they may have family members and others that do not have RVs. So if you know, look at all the major ones around Florida now, park models are part of it, but those park models are very expensive. You know, you're looking in a range of $175 to $225 a night. So they're not,
What percentage of your 400 units is there a limitation in your HUD development plan as to what percentage of your 400 sites will have park models on them?
yeah, do we have that? That's,
Mr. Holmes, can I ask you to kind of get to the microphone?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, my question was, if I understand it correctly, you're approving the development plan, not just the PUD overlay, is that correct? So the development plan basically is your, for lack of a better term, it's your whatever rules and regulations that you can enforce in terms of the way this project proceeds. It's not just the PUD overlay, planning development overlay, but you're actually approving the development plan, if I'm understanding correctly. So is that right, Lisa?
Yes. That's right.
So my question is, does the development plan include a limitation on the length of stay? And secondly, what does it include any limitation on the percentage of the 400 sites that can have park models on them that are owned by the developer?
We do not have a number of park models that are maximum or minimum, but there is a limit to the stay. The stay was, I believe it's 9 months is the maximum stay that we have in the PUD standards. So the city manager is correct. What we're looking for tonight is the PUD standards for the development, but not the development plan. So the PUD standards are identifying the rubric for what we have to go forward with from a site planning standpoint.
The PUD development plan.
Correct. So it's kind of it's a little bit of a play on the words, is the PUD sets the standard.
We're scared of.
Right. Well, the PUD itself sets the standards for what the development has to meet. In other words, if there is a limitation on the amount of stay, there's architectural standards, there's a maximum number of density units and that sort of thing.
Excuse me just a minute.
Yes.
Ms. Walker, don't we have a note in the city about the number of days somebody can stay? Or did we do away with that?
I have not been able to find that in our code. I have not been able to find that in our code.
Most campgrounds are like 14 days.
Well, I'm not just talking about campgrounds, I'm just talking about in general. Didn't we, Mr. Holmes, didn't we have something like that?
Chairman, off the top of my head, I know that you have placed maximum lengths of stay in particularly as I recall it now, the PUD agreement that was approved for the 10-acre site that's north of this.
Okay.
I can't tell you that I recall whether or not your ordinances specify a maximum length of stay in an RV park. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, I don't recall off the top of my head.
Okay.
I could try to go look at the code real quick and tell you if I can find something, but I don't
I
recall.
would think there's a limit.
Well, I thought we had a discussion, and I think that was with the bed and breakfast. I know that's probably a different thing.
That's a different ballgame.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Sonny just found the section in the code that it's called temporary placement for recreational vehicles, and it says be on the site for fewer than 180 consecutive days.
Yeah, but if it's a park model, I guess
Then it's.
Well, I think a park model, when you say park model, Mr. Holmes, I think that would be, I would believe in my mind. Well, you're kind of
Yes,
sort of, but
right.
I believe it'd be just in in my knowledge of RV. And I think that would be just a short term. Every RV park I've ever been in has park models. And the people use them on the weekends and stuff like that. But I'm just, I just want to make sure we're covered everywhere.
And I don't disagree that you have a point of view and an opinion,
Right.
but I'll relate to the fact that I can't stop being a lawyer just because I'm going to be city manager for the next 5 weeks.
How long?
5 weeks. What's not in the development plan doesn't exist.
Right.
So your thought may be, well, park models you bring in and you take out. But if I'm hearing it correctly, there's nothing to stop there from being 400 park models set up, rented for 9 months at a time to folks. And then if that's what's in there,
The
Then
applicant is
you need-
proposing up to 30% of the site would be parking.
well, I asked if there was a limitation and they said no. So you're saying now it's 30%.
Yes, sir, just found it.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, so the confusion with parking model is it is an RV that's permanently on the property. But again, it is a rental RV for users who do not have an RV but want to come and stay at an RV resort. Or those who are staying at the RV resort and then have family members who come and visit them. It gives them a place to stay that's close by on the property. But again, there's no address to it, so it can't be a permanent residence for somebody. So yes, thank you, Lisa, for providing that. I spoke on that. We do have a maximum of 30% of 400.
Mr. Wallace has a question.
We were at 6 to 8 months for length of stay, if I understood right a minute ago. Now we're talking 9 months.
Yeah, so the typical range that they're shooting for snowbirds is 6 to 8 months. But the maximum stay for one person is 9 months. To cover, because there's kind of a little bit of a range for some snowbirds. Some stay a little longer, some stay a little less. So we were hoping to get a little bit on a little extra time just in case some stay for 8 months and a few days. Because of their travel.
How do you determine snowbird? I mean, I got my definition.
That's not bring it out. Mr. Wallace.
No, we're 6 to 8, and then based on being called something else, you get 9.
No. So the overall maximum stay is 9 months. So regardless of any resident coming in is 9 months. But the thought process is that most people who come and visit RV resorts from the north stay for 6 to 8 months, depending on how they travel in their season.
So 9 months.
So that's the reason why we're requesting the 9 months.
Ms. Wilson?
So how many short term? I mean, because I've got people that camp and it's like, people need campground, campsites around here. So there's going to be enough to where people that are just coming to a fishing tournament, coming for a couple of weeks to hang out, will there be availability?
Yeah, so the campground is, of course, just like everybody else is, it's first come, first served. So there'll be a variation of just capacity. And the hope is with the amenities in the site, it'll be very attractive. So the goal is to have quite a bit of turnover as well as, accommodating some of the longer stays.
I'm concerned with shorter, versus in the longer term to accommodate people who just need to.
Yeah, it's really just based off, first come, first served.
Please state your name and address, sir.
Dave McDaniel with M3 Development. I live in Maitland, Florida.
You're fine.
Okay. So to address the question about timeframes, when we were working on our development in another community, that question came up. And in the course of our research, as well as the city staff's research, they actually found that every city that they called that had an existing RV ordinance had no length of stay limitation. And they decided to go ahead and go with that. Obviously, there's the risk, and obviously, which you all are concerned about, is it becoming a place that people actually live at. And I do realize that we need to be concerned about that sort of thing. But with the amount of money that we've spent already owning the real estate that we have, the intended budget of $25 million, that likelihood will not be in our lifetimes, or your kids probably. So I have all expectation this is going to be a first-class resort that is going to be something that people of Palatka will be proud of well into the future. We also learned an interesting thing with regard to the park models as well as stays. Obviously, for us, if short-term stay is the demand, we're going to want to rent to those folks. They're going to be paying more money than people who stay for a week or 2 weeks or a month. And so clearly the incentive for us is going to be short-term stays. But we went and visited with the developer of a Margaritaville RV resort over in the city of Auburndale. And they told us a piece of information that I'm still shocked about. I'm not even sure I'm remembering the information because it was so shocking. I think he said something like 40% of their weekend stays were people who lived within a 10-mile radius.
I agree with that.
And I was like, they're like using it like a country club. And so we're expecting that be an element of our business, a regular part of our business. And again, the intention here is, and again, I can't speak for other developers. We are land developers. We've been doing this. We've been in this business an awful long time. In the town of Newbury, where we're building residential communities, we have a 700 lot subdivision, biggest that community's ever had by about 5 times. And we are doing it. We're building lots right now. I'm about to get a plat on the 10th for 134 lots. So the answer is we actually try to talk less than we do. We do more than we talk. So our intention is to deliver what we're talking about. As to whether we have absolute control over it, we also know the economy can change. We'll probably pull back and wait for the economy to get back. But our expectation is to be in this for the long haul. And by the way, thank you very much for hearing me out.
Well, I'm going to say this. This is my personal opinion. Is that okay, Ms. Thomas, if I say it's my personal opinion? I'm going to go ahead and take my personal opinion.
Yes, sir.
I know Mr. Redford very well. I see what he's done with the marina out there, and I've seen the work that he's put in and the passion he has for that. As my personal opinion is, I have no doubt that it's going to be a top-rated venue. But in saying that, still, and y'all keep saying long haul, and you made a statement about our children, and my children. I've been here for 6 generations. My children are still here. My grandchildren are still here. And I plan on my family being here probably as much as this board do. And all good intentions are put into things. There's always a chance that somebody's going to come in here and say, well, we like that. We're going to give you a lot of money. And if we don't buckle up and button up everything that's on here, that's what I want to do. And I know that most of this board wants to do is we want to make sure all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, so that we may, in the future, if something happens and y'all decide to sell out and do your thing and walk on Kelly, you go back to Kentucky or whatever, But I'm just saying that if that happens, the people that take it from y'all are bound by what agreements that y'all are making here today verbally, and that we can put them on paper and make sure that they're legally bound.
I believe we've done that in our P agreements. So.
And let me say on the backside of this, that's my personal agreement again. My personal opinion again.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you.
Wait just a minute. Any other questions of the? Okay.
I just want to make sure that we established that I'm sorry, my mic's not on. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that we established there's not going to be more than 30% of the lots that are the park models. That's for sure, because it's in there. The only thing is that you've said that there is a limit to 9 months, but we aren't limiting how many of those lots can be long-term like that, 9 months. It's just, and we can't limit that everything. But I just want to clarify that that's all correct.
So yes, so there is a maximum of 30% of the 400 feet park models. And the intention is that the maximum stay is 9 months. But yes, and unfortunately you can't say this one spot, you can only stay in for a week, and it's hard to manage that way.
Thank you.
Any other board members got any other questions? Yes, Ms. Ross.
Is there a way that we can say that the maximum stay is 6 months or less? I mean,
Well,
who determines the 9 months?
Our
I think that's what
code,
they're asking for, isn't it? Or-
because
they're asking for 9, our code states 6 months, 180 days.
Okay, so that's part of the variance they're asking for and what we're doing? Or that's
Part of the PUD
That's part of
development.
the PUD standards, correct? So we are requesting a change in that from the.
Because, I mean, I've gone to RV resorts and Wakaiba,
Yeah,
there's an area of Wakaiba I would not let my son ride his bike down. Because they're all permanent residents and it's just not an appealing and you're putting us in Putnam County. And these are the developers who's gonna run the place after. How long is the developer gonna stick around and rent this out? Or are they gonna sell it?
we want to go out and answer that. State your name again, please.
Matt McCann. Our intention is to hold it, but again, I would say that with the amount of money that's being invested in it, first, we are economically motivated to have a shorter term, tenancy, because that's where we really make all of our money. A longer term tenancy, can kind of pay the bills, but if you took this whole thing and went long-term tenancy, it probably wouldn't make economic sense to develop. And to say, again, when we're talking about, we went back to the pictures, I mean, we have high-level architects, we spent a lot of time on both the exterior design and the interior color scheme. I mean, we're talking about bringing something that will be the best looking project, and then what it costs to build that. We simply would never allow to have it be run down because it would be economically adverse to us. And in the long run, I would say, if it got sold to a company down the road, price that they would be paying for it would also be, prohibitive. And part of what we fell in love with was Crystal Cove. We think it's a beautiful piece of real estate and the marina is beautiful. And that's why it makes sense for us, to consider investing so much money, because we think, like, who would not want to be here? Anyone who's been down to Crystal Cove,
I've been down to Crystal Cove before the Redbirds and purchased it, and my husband actually owned a little one. And he would stay on his liveaboard on weekends, and he would work and live in his house on weekdays. So there's your percentage of people, locals, that want to have fun. We work hard, we play hard.
Yeah.
We would drop the wave runners in, and we would go out on the river and spend the night on the right, the hotel would have a band, and we'd stay the night on the boat. He was, I guess, getting ready to sell the property, and all the boats, docks needed to be filled up. We need to fill this place with people, so he let long-term people move in, and it was not a legal. Their activities were not legal by any way, shape, or form. And the police were called nightly, and people were being arrested. Johns were being hauled off, drugs were being done, and it just wasn't a good. And when he moved in and the new owner purchased it, he had to get rid of all the dock trash.
Mhm.
So and he had to completely renovate. It made his job a lot harder because what was used, my husband sold the boat. He was like, I can't spend my weekends here. So,
Yeah.
and that's what my concern is the long-term 9 months. That's,
Mhm.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak to that, Ms. Rose, when I meant, 9 months does seem like a long time. But in fact, though, if you have 9 months, that's what you're bound to. The places that you spoke of a minute ago, those people were permanent people. They moved in there on those places, and they were there permanently. That's where they live. So if you have at least a 9 month time limit on things, I think that you're doing away with that permanent type. What you're talking about living there. I I agree with you to a point,
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that what they're talking about, I mean, this is my personal vision of what I see. I don't see anything wrong with it. And I mean, you're talking $20-30 million you're investing here, is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
I mean, that's a lot of investment to put into that park, and infrastructure and everything. And it would be, to me, it would be a good thing for Palatka to have, like I say, because there's a lot of, we all know this, sitting up here at this board, there's a lot of RVers that use, and come in and they would use the Palatka, they would, the Publix and everything. I mean, I can't agree totally with 11 trips a day. It's, some of those things I don't personally agree with. The park itself, I mean,
We need it. It's a
I
good
mean,
thing.
I see it.
yeah.
But I just want to make sure, like I said a minute ago, you fellows are tied to exactly what, what you're saying. I mean, I want all the i's dotted and the t's crossed.
Yes, so in the PUD documents, the maximum park models are in there, so they are restricted to that. The length of stay is in the agreement as well.
How big of the, I didn't look, I didn't ever see it, but how big of the park models you're talking about putting in there?
You know, 399 square feet, you can answer.
Well, I'm just, let's say, answer me
The
this.
2-1,
How long are they? What's the max?
So
Name?
Matt McDaniel. 399 square feet is the maximum that a park model can be, because the park model is technically a vehicle.
Right.
And so that is the standard. Oh, in 400 square feet,
Or what?
I honestly, I don't know the answer. 10 feet wide by 40 feet deep,
Okay.
plus or minus.
You're right.
Yeah.
400 square feet.
Mhm.
Okay, so that'd be a normal size, a larger size RV.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, to your point, I think one thing we didn't talk about is the management of the resort. They're going to hire a third-party consultant that specializes in running RV resorts.
So they have management of it, they won't be on top of this themselves.
Correct. So they'll be paying a third-party company whose job is to monitor the stay, make sure the park is clean, all that sort of aspects from a management standpoint. So they'll be a designated staff.
I just, our family has had, starting from a class C all the way up to, very expensive RVs. And I didn't own the very expensive one, my in-laws did. I've got enough investment in one. I also hauls horses as well as the living quarters. And, my father-in-law, when he bought the RV, I said, you could have bought 2 condos on St. Augustine Beach. For the RV. And, so the class of people that you see, it's not the gypsies coming to town.
Right.
It is people that have the ability to go stay and spend the money to buy a nice RV in most cases. It's a different class of people than it was even 20 years ago. They're coming to these parks and where they go and what we've seen them. And sometimes when we're not going to a horse show, I pull my horse trailer that has a 18-foot living quarter. That's a 32-foot trailer, but 18-foot of it is living quarter. And you just see and there's a lot of great people there. It's a different world than it was 20 years ago.
Mr. Wall?
Claim.
I'm back on.
Well, do y'all have any other questions? We beat this horse as hard as we did.
yeah.
Okay.
To your concern, Mr. Chair, the items that we have been discussing are in writing in the
I'm with you.
so it is written as well.
I think right now we beat you as hard as we beat you, okay?
It's all right.
I'm going to open this up to anybody else that wants to speak to. Kitchen. So,
Liquid Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. I'm not against the RV park. I think it sounds very good. However, I do have some concerns. Mr. Holmes addressed one of them. 450 units equals a minimum of 900 people, 11 trips a day. Okay, so let's say that they only make 11 trips a day, then that doesn't coincide with them helping to develop Palatka and going to Palatka and shopping. 11 trips a day is not going to develop anything or help Palatka at all. You can't have it both ways. I think it's going to be more than 11 trips, which I have no problem with that, but I think you all need to know that it's going to be more than 11. And if they're going, if they, one of the things they tooted for, giving the park was how it's going to be economically develop Palatka because people are going to be coming to Palatka and shopping and going to Publix. No, now if you're doing 11 trips a day and you got 900 people, assuming there's 2 people per unit. So I have an issue with that. I think that needs to be clarified. They're saying 11, we know it's going to be more than 11, but I don't like it being saying 11 when we know better. The other thing is you are the board. If you have concerns, you put it in writing. You can change the PUD and add things or subtract things that you think need to be done. Now, as far as the 9 months, no. Why do I say no? Because our city code says 180 days. That's 6 months. So if I do an RV park and I don't do a PUD, I'm stuck for 6 months. These guys get 9 months, not fair. Change it to 6 months, everybody's happy, they comply with the code, they're not gonna lose any money, they're gonna make money. They may lose a couple of dollars here and there, but they're not gonna lose any money by having a 6 month thing as opposed to a 9 month. Let's get real. So if you have a concern about what I do, then change the PUD and make it 180 days instead of 9 months. And know in your mind it's gonna be more than 11 trips, regardless of what they said. Peak trips aren't the major traffic in Palatka. It's the everyday trips. Look at River Street, look at Kirby Street, look at Laurel Street. Anyway, you have the right as the board to put restrictions on that PUD and make sure that the restrictions you want on there, the things you're concerned about going to the PUD, because I think it's not in Donna reference. If it's not in the PUD, it's not going to be done. So if you want something in that PUD, you want something changed, don't be wishy-washy about it, have them change it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kitchen. As far as 11 trips a day, I mean, there's more, there's more, we all know, there's more trucks and stuff that come down Comfort Road. That was my question for them about coming out and where it was gonna come out on Comfort Road. Just because, I mean, that road was built for traffic. That's just my personal opinion. Anybody else would like to speak? Oh, hang on just a minute.
David McDaniel with redevelopment. So with regard to the traffic question, I personally think I can explain it in a way that will make sense and we'll put it into context. So peak trips are the time when you're going to work and coming home from work. So it's the, I don't know exact time to call it 8 to 9 o'clock or 7:30 to 9 o'clock. And then likewise from 4 until 6 o'clock. Those are the peak traffic hours. And if you're in an RV, first of all, check-in won't be until 10, 11 o'clock. Checkout's going to be 4 o'clock. So the bulk of the activity that will be in terms of the RVs in and out are going to be happening outside of the peak traffic times. So certainly there's going to be a lot more cars and RVs coming in and out of the site. The question is it going to impact the places where you bottleneck? And bottlenecks occur during times when people are coming in and out of work. So if you're in an RV, you're on vacation, you're not going to work. That's where that number comes from. Again, I understand the confusion and 11 sounds like an incredibly low number, but I think that the transportation modeling that Chris referenced helps explain it. And I think hopefully I put a little bit more explanation that'll make sense for y'all.
So just to elaborate on that, sorry.
Yes, sir.
The statistic shared of 11 trips per day is 11 average trips during peak hours.
Yes.
It's, they don't really call it the average, they just call it the peak. So you don't have, the average day, you collective group, you have this average going. The peak is from 4 PM to 6 PM, and then 7 AM, that's, 7 AM to 9 AM. And that is the most trips that you will see produced in those two time periods, is 11. So it may be lower than 11, but it won't, based on statistics, it won't be more than the 11 at those periods.
Very nice.
Is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll turn this back from public speaking to the board. Does the board have any questions? We'll talk about between us.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Your turn.
I just got a question, being a non-camper. I'm hearing a lot of objections to length of time when folks are able to stay. And I'm trying to understand, I guess, we don't want permanent residents and the 9 months obtains that. And if the city has pre-existing ordinances, then, maybe we need to look into that. But I guess from a grander scheme, what's the difference in Earl staying there 6 months and Edie staying there 6 months, or Earl staying there 9 months and Edie staying there 3 months? You've got a space that you got to assume that's filled. Again, the goal being to eliminate permanent residents. I respect that. But is there really a big difference between 6 months and 8 months, or 8 months and 9 months? I don't know. So I guess that's a general question.
Is the body of the developers, are y'all leaving that to 9 months, expecting some campers to come from the shutdowns at the mill and the electric plants and stuff like that, or are y'all strictly relying on residents coming in snowbirds?
Yeah, the intention of the 9 months is for the snowbirds, based on their
Migration.
migration. Yes, but also the studies that they've done in other RV resorts, those are typically the length of stays that they have seen from residents up north.
It's brought.
To answer Chase a little bit, as a weekend camper, family camper with younger kids. If you were gonna not be a camper, just let's go as a family to a hotel. Are you gonna go to a hotel? Both hotels have pools. This one is a long-term hotel, monthly, and this one is by the night. This one's gonna be more expensive by the night, and this long-term one's gonna be cheaper for monthly rentals. But the types of people that stay in these, you've got workers in this one, and you've got vacationers in this one. You've got families in this one, and you've got a room full of men. What are you gonna subject your campers and family to? Do you want them to be in a hotel where these guys are gonna get up at the crack of dawn to go pick the field or work the mill or whatever they're gonna do? Or are you gonna have a vacation and sleep in and go on the river and have a resort feeling? That's the difference in clientele that I'm trying to bring up. So I think 9 months is way too long. If a snowbird is gonna come and stay, they're gonna come and stay 6 months and go home. Or they're gonna come and stay a little bit here and a little bit over there and then go home.
I guess I'm not understanding it. If Earl moves in next door to me and works the mill and leaves at 6 in the morning, comes home at 6 at night, that's a perfect neighbor.
Earl's
never
not gonna
seen.
do that though. Earl's gonna have 4 of his working buddies that are hired by a bigger company. Georgia Pacific hires groups of people, as employees, and they come, and there's gonna be 4 people. How many beds are these
So,
400 square feet? places
so if I
available?
bring my wife and 2 kids, it's 4 people.
Okay, so that you have like 4,
It depends on the RV, but yes,
Like
say
six?
3 to 4.
8,
Department.
4, 6, 8. My RV sleeps 8. You got GP, if I'm GP and I'm hiring it for a crew of laborers, I'm gonna get 8 guys to sleep in that RV. Next to your family of 4 in an RV, we only sleep 3 in RV, but it can sleep up to 8. So GP is gonna get their money worth and have all of the 8 people.
So if you
And
have
they're
8
gonna-
family members that want to stay the weekend with you, they're supposed to tell you no?
No, if I have 8 family members, I'm gonna tell them to rent a couple cabins and I'm gonna be in my RV.
That's
It-
just, that's
it's-
discretion we can't moderate.
I know, but you can moderate it if you say the long-term stay is only 6 months.
Okay, well, what's to prevent you from renting for 6 months, then your 6 months is up and you unhook and pull out of the campground and pull back in and rent a separate space for another 6 month duration? Nothing.
There's something about that. You can,
So,
You have to be gone at night.
but again, the target audience is not, for these type of resorts are not the, construction workers or the workers that are coming in for those sort of things. My father-in-law is actually an electrician who travels. You know, he's in Georgia staying at, actually he's staying at a mobile home park because he is there for years at a time. And so this would be something that based on the price point, those type of employees and the companies would not want to pay that type of monthly payment for those workers. And, you know, to that too, from experience with my father-in-law, most people they do is, I mean, they're adults, they want to have their own space. So they're not cramming 4 to 6 people. He lives by himself on his own RV. It's actually a 5th wheel and a mobile home park. It is cheaper than a hotel. But again, the clientele vision and marketing is for the retiree with an RV, not construction workers coming in and staying for 6 or 8 months.
And we're looking at, I mean, in Virginia, and just to generalize and compare, you're looking at something like what's over at Keystone Heights, am I not wrong?
Maybe better than that.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
in comparison, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so in comparison, looking at that, as I go by it, as I stop there at the little restaurant and eat, look out upon the Contessa wagons. that they use.
Conestoga wagon.
However you say it. Listen, I'm just a poor old country boy, okay? And those wagons they have out there is park model. I mean, you know, that's kept up pretty well and it's got a lot of, I mean, and you're talking about a river. I mean, we all know what that river's value is to us. And bringing these people to them. And I'm not being the Chamber of Commerce here. I'm just, you know, I can see what that could be. And you know, Dawn, we've camped together many times, and you know, you see the, I see the side of it, come up with that other place. You know, but I also see the value of the home or the RVs that come in there. You know, mine's 40 feet. You know, and it can sleep 11. But I just, you know.
Oh, we don't sleep.
Well, I do. I got my grandkids running in and out and everything. But I don't, the time period kind of concerns me too. I mean, the 9 months.
That's the only
Can
thing
you,
that.
can you put it, in- I mean,
Yeah, we can do whatever we want to in that pub.
How bad will it hurt y'all if we did
Is it really gonna make that big of a difference?
either way?
Matt McDaniel, it won't make that big of a difference. I mean, the only reason we asked for that is on another project that we have. We've gotten advised by our consultants, is that snowbirds they're seeing in the industry in Florida is that snowbirds are staying longer and longer, really starting with COVID. And so they advised us a while back. They said, if you want to be really safe, most people are 6 months or less. The vast majority are 6 months or less. But they were advising us to ask for more time just to be safe if someone wanted to, you know, stay a little bit longer. But if it's an issue for the city, it's not the end of the world for us. So we're not trying to.
6 months of a whole, a bunch of snowbirds. It might be-
I would say 6 months would probably cover, you know,
I think so.
95%. And
Mr. Barnes,
Just piggyback again. Is there a difference between 6 months and 9 months?
3.
I mean, so what's the big deal? I mean, why are we trying to, I mean, these folks are having an impact on our community. They are going to Publix regardless of whatever the trip study says. I mean, they've got to get food somewhere. You know, this is drastically increasing our tax bases. You know, so those folks that want to stay 7 months instead of 6 are an asset to the community. And is it really making that big of a difference?
As far as the quality, you know, 9 months is not gonna make it a migrant camp. You know, 6 months, 9 months. What's,
That's
I agree.
That's what the other folks in our other project is they realize the difference, you know, to give us the time we wanted, didn't really change. So that's why we asked for it. We're not trying to be greedy. We just have a long-term business plan and we want to make sure that we have latitude to execute that business plan.
And can I ask staff, and I doubt you know the answer off the top of your head, do you know why we set a 6-month ordinance previously? Was there any data or statistics or metrics that we based that opinion on?
you know,
Mr. Wallace, go ahead.
somebody thought it was a good idea.
But I think also was, in one
I
of,
mean, that's being honest.
well, Mr. Wallace, if I remember correctly, we're talking donuts to bagels now. When, one of the things, when I first came on the board, you were talking about the what'd you call them, when we were talking about the bed and breakfast, the houses, the flop houses. You didn't want to see things become flop houses.
No, bed and breakfast are not flop houses.
No, I know
We
that.
had the North Historic District and the South Historic District where you took a historic home and split it into 8 apartments with 8 non-desirables in it. That's a flop house.
And that's how that came about, Jack. I mean, it was before me being on the board. It was when him and some of the others before us.
So, and I
The
think
6 months never passed my lips.
I didn't say it didn't. I was asking, you know,
In comparison with the 6 and 9 months, if you give the opportunity to stay 9 months, you're gonna have more 9-month stayers. If you don't give them the opportunity and they know they can leave in 6 months, then, you know, leave in 6 months. If when you're staying 9 months, you're gonna have a high, it doesn't matter, you're gonna be going to the store and then you're gonna see Dollar Tree and then you're gonna see all of these other stores. And you're gonna have, more than, your impact is gonna be greater.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so I mean,
yes,
again, if there is a disconnect between the board members, I mean, we're fine with following the code with 6 months. It's.
well, here's what I'm
Making
gonna
it-
say. Here's,
And let me say one thing. My youngest daughter, she lives on the coast in Oregon. She just moved out there. She lives on Airstream. She's got 2 campgrounds that she alternates between. One's 6 months and one is 9 months. The 9 months one is nicer than the 6 month. So that, you know, destroys that, but it, with them, nobody's mentioned the money and what these people are gonna be.
well, they have
Charging.
mentioned the money as far as.
No,
what's gonna cost.
25 million,
Yes, sir.
but with what they've got to charge
Mhm.
to make this thing go, you're not gonna have a bunch of vagrants and such in there, whether it's 9 months or 6 months. That's just Earl's opinion, like you had one earlier.
If the applicant's okay with just conceding to the 6 months, and there's no need to discuss it further.
What I was gonna suggest was that we go ahead, if I can hear a motion to how you want it to be with the PUD, and any differences in the PUD, what have you like that. Make it, second, let's vote on
So we have 3 different, what are we trying, we're gonna have 3 different things?
it.
To-
Mr. Barnes,
Mr. Chair, if I may, I would like to make a motion that we approve the amendment of the future land use map from industrial, residential low to commercial, or excuse me, and commercial to recreational be approved. This isn't part of the PUD yet, right? So I'll make the exception in the next one.
Yeah.
I have a motion and a second. I don't have a second.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Everything went on the way we needed it to go. Okay, now we're working on, which one are we working on?
At the second half of this.
EUD overlay.
What page is that?
It's up on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's what we just did.
There are two components, the land use and the rezoning.
Okay, that's it then. I'm sorry. Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the request to rezone from light industrial, central commercial, and residential multifamily to the planning and development, recreation, and open space, as presented with the one exception that, tenants be limited to a 6-month stay as per our prior code.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second it.
Mr. Bill. Mr. Barnes, motion, Mr. Bill, seconded. Do I hear, comment, do I hear? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous? That's an hour and a half of our time we'll never get back. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Don't make us sorry.
Hour and a half in 3 months.
Thank you.
All right, let's get it going. I want to see something.
There's, I thought there was a second.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
That's what I was going to. I didn't know if that was that or was other. Ms. Wall? Yes, sir.
Is the PUD ever gonna come back before us?
No, it will go on to the commission as
Have you worked all that out or are y'all in the process?
far as
As
when it's
far as
going,
restrictions and what they can do and what they can't.
that's all in here. Except for that condition that Mr. Barnes added.
Say that again.
Except for the condition that Mr. Barnes added about the length of stay. Everything else is in the development. plan.
So it is as I read it earlier today,
Yes,
no change.
except for that length of stay.
Yeah. Okay.
And it should go before the commission at the second meeting in April. So I think it's the 27th.
In order for them to approve it, they can tear it up if they want,
That's correct.
but it reads in Earl's opinion, it's gonna be nice.
The things that we've talked about, I agree.
Please.
Anybody get a good
Hurry.
Didn't you pee yesterday?
5 minutes for Ms. Wilson to use the facilities. I want that put in the record. Well, trying to get an hour back in the time. Ms. Wall, will you take us into PB case 23-06, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to annex one parcel approximately a half acre in size into the city of Palatka for the purpose of connecting to the city's water and sewer systems. They are requesting to amend the future land use map from Putnam County Urban Service to City of Palatka Commercial and rezone from Putnam County General Light Commercial, which is C2, to City of Palatka Intensive Commercial, which is also C2. This is, I wanted to let you know that those parking surrounding it are essentially commercial in future land use and zoning natures, even whether or not they are inside the city limits.
Where is this property located?
It is west of US 19 on Reed Street. It's right next to the driveway coming out of Lowe's on Reed Street.
Is that where they've had like,
Like that little building that they've had that,
Leota's had it for sale before, but I think they've had consignment shop. and stuff.
yes.
It was that consignment shop.
Okay.
Staff has analyzed it in accordance with our comp plan and zoning code and recommends approval.
Okay. Cindy, I guess there's nobody here in who wants to speak to that. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
If you're ready, sir.
I'm ready.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we approve the request to annex this parcel into the city.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion, yeas have it unanimously. Is there anything further business come?
But do we have to rezone it?
There's three parts.
I'm glad y'all keep me, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we approve the request to amend the future land use map from Putnam County Urban Services to City of Palatka Commercial.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Have it unanimously.
Chair, if I may, I'd like to request that we approve the request to rezone from Putnam County General Light Commercial C2 to City of Palatka Intensive Commercial C2.
Have a motion to have a second?
Aye. Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Is there any further business coming before the board this fall?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Valeria Thomas. This is going to be my last meeting with the board. And so I just wanted to tell you how much I have enjoyed working with you. And I'm going to miss these early month meetings with the planning board. And we will see each other around in town. I'll still be here. I'm not leaving Putnam County or anything like that.
Well, we're sorry for you to go, Ms. Collins, but we understand you want to gallop off into your retirement. So make it a big, broad, big horse that you're riding on, okay?
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
All right.
Do we have any further business?
I do. We have a Blight to Bright community meeting on April 20th at Price Martin Center at 6 o'clock. And that is to get the message out to the community that we're working on code enforcement.
Okay.
And we are listing it under sunshine, so 2 or more board members can be present.
Okay.
What time is it?
6 o'clock
6, okay.
at the Price Martin Center, April 20th.
Down where the light is. That's where my office is. Everything's cleaned up down there very well. I'm really proud of it.
I don't know if you saw the article in the paper that there were approximately 12 sites that were chosen as the most dire need of code enforcement actions. And those sites were spread all over the city.
And does it mean they're going to get cleaned up, like leveled cleaned up, put it in a dumpster and take it off, or they're gonna fix it up?
Well, that's up.
Either
to-
or.
Yeah.
Either or, okay.
yeah. Mr. Barnes?
I was gonna ask her, are they gonna, did they list those sites?
Yeah.
Yes,
I think
it
they were
is
in the
the
paper,
paper.
yes.
Where they, okay, sorry.
And the one that took, I think they took off from Central Academy.
Yes, that's correct.
I think like the little houses that they're fixing up around the little, I call it infill lots, but the little houses that they've been, remodeling and fixing up, those look nice. It makes the, and it's like you see a couple here and then there'll be one pop up there and there's one around the corner from my office that, really, I thought the next time the wind blew, it was gonna fall in. And they added a room and it's nice. And they do it with the periods, it's not stucco and everything else, so spending some money.
Any further business, any further comments, Mr. Barnes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we adjourn.
We can do adjourn. We
I
are
say
adjourned.
Not call that place a rag shop, that was not a derogatory comment. If you've been by there, they've got all of these racks of dress going in the wind all day.